right, everybody, what's happening? It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, and I'm here with my review for the first 2 episodes of Loki on Disney+. Now, if you're probably watching this on a Tuesday, so you haven't seen it yet, but if you're watching this on Wednesday when it drops, and you haven't seen it yet, come on back, because it will be spoilers. Yeah, so let's do this. I am very excited about this series. I've made that known that this has been one of the series I definitely was looking forward to because it's something different. It's not, again, that's why I was so interested in WandaVision. Now, of course, everyone is going to pick and choose which is your favorite MCU Disney Plus series. It's kind of similar to the way people pick and choose their favorite MCU film. That is what it is. I choose to let them all stand on their own merits, whatever the case may be. But the way this kicks off, it made everybody have to understand, this is what happened to Loki in Avengers Endgame when he stole the Tesseract when they were finna send him into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. He goes and he's transported into Mongolia. And while he's transported to Mongolia, here come agents of the TVA, and they go ahead and pop him with this stick that they tell him has got him moving in 1/16th speed, but he feels everything. I'm like, yo. And so then they put the collar on Loki. They have him come in. You see the scene that we've seen in the featurette in the trailer where he has to, is this, please sign and show that this is everything you've ever said. And every time he keeps saying something, it adds another page. There's a lot of humor going into the TVA, and the TVA has they're futuristic. You'll see it's a futuristic look, but a lot of things aren't. It's more of the old school style, like the look of the TVA, the computers in which they use, things like that. It's really interesting. You see at one point there's Loki with a dude, and dude gives this ticket, one of the men, they're called Minutemen and stuff, and they give this one guy in front of him a ticket, and he's like, I don't need no ticket, and blah, 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 blah. So he goes through, and then gives Loki a ticket. And both of them like, yo, I don't need a ticket. Loki's like, yo, it's only 2 of us, but he takes the ticket anyway. Dude get to the front of the line to speak to an agent because they're on trial for their crimes against the sacred timeline, right? And so as dude gets to the front, dude's like, yo, he talk about having a ticket. Dude's like, I ain't got no ticket. And dude does what's called prune him and disintegrate him. And Loki like, oh shit, let me find my ticket. By the way, they have Loki, and when Loki gets kidnapped first by the TVA, they have him in this they push him in this elevator thing. And there's a little robot with the old school TV type monitor and arms. It strips his clothes, and he like, oh, so this is what we do. It drops his ass down and then throws him in a TVA suit. He goes into another one of these little things, his whole processing. The dude asks him, are you an organic being? Do you have what many basically would constitute as a soul? Are you a robot? And he's like, no. He said, he's like, yo, do a lot of people ask that? So dude's like, of course you're not a robot. It sends him through. And again, it's funny with these different things. So you basically see how Loki is processed. Then you keep hearing about many different things, how Nexus events can lead to multiversal wars. And they lead into multiversal wars. You learn about the history of the Timekeepers, how the Timekeepers started the TVA because of many multiverses combined into one. They call it the sacred timeline and different things like that. You are introduced to Miss Minutes, who is voiced by Tara Strong, which is hilarious because at a point later you get to see, you're like, is Miss Minutes, Loki even asked, he's like, are you a recording or are you here in the moment? And she's like, I'm kind of both. So I'm going to give you guys a jumbled, pretty much, review of both episodes. The first episode is pretty much showing Loki getting acclimated to the TVA getting acclimated to him. Loki's on trial. He's in front of the judge. The judge is Google Mbatha-Raw. And right when he's about to be prosecuted, Owen Wilson's character is like, yo, basically, I want to take this variant. I know who he is. I know what I need him for, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. Takes him, showing Loki all that, and then he's starting to talk to Loki. At a point when he's talking to Loki, I'm not in order, of course, excuse me. He's talking to Loki, and he's telling Loki about his past and everything, and he's showing Loki the events. And so, again, this is the Loki snatched up from Avengers. Not Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, from Avengers. So Thor the Dark World hasn't happened. But he's showing Loki what his life is and what everything is supposed to happen. He shows him the death of Frigga, his mom, Thor's mom as well. Shows him that. Loki's getting emotional. He's seeing all these different things. And he's like, yo, this hasn't happened. He's like, no, this happens. This is the way your life is supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so he's even like, this is an illusion and everything. And Loki just doesn't want to believe it because Loki's a trickster. At one point, Loki's in court, I forgot to mention, and he's in front of the judge. And he's like, I'm going to do this. And he can't use his magic in the TVA. I forgot to mention earlier when I said he got hit by one of the Minutemen. It's played by Wunmi Mosaku. She's an amazing actress. If you saw Lovecraft Country, she was phenomenal in that. She's been popping up in a lot of other things. She's amazing. And so she laughs when he tries to do this. It's like, he's trying to use magic. And it's so funny because she basically is through this, and she doesn't like Loki. She just doesn't like him. Of course, Loki has a history. TVA knows who he is, but she just doesn't like, doesn't trust, doesn't believe anything about him. And you can understand why. At one point, after Loki tries to break free, it's crazy because Loki tricks Wunmi's character, and he has her come in the room, and he puts the thing around her neck, and she keeps trying to charge at him, and he keeps resetting her, and she's like, stop it. And he does the little funny things, the Loki trickster thing. But I wanted to go into another thing. Again, I'm not going bit by bit review. I also want to make that clear. Him talking to Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson is breaking Loki down to a science to understand why Loki does what he does, who he is. He says he's the god of mischief, but none of the things he does are mischievous. He shows the event in Avengers when he steals the dude's eye, the murders he's committed. He's like, none of this is mischievous. Like, you're a murderer. Like, there's nothing, like cute pranky wise. And you see all that. And he talks about eventually how Loki breaks down his villains, and he breaks down how his villains are and how he is as a villain and all these things. And it gets so deep and emotional. But I digress. After Loki puts the collar on Wunmi's character, he goes and tries to get back to, I forgot the guy's name. Fuck, I can't remember. He's like the head receptionist. Please forgive my mind, not my heart. You know what? I'm going to play the dude that's like, yo, are you supposed to be doing this while you recording this? Man, look, I'm professional, but at the same time, I need to figure out what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to have to come back. It is Eugene Cordero's character. They are hilarious together. So Eugene Cordero is he's born, raised, everything through the TVA. They were created by the Timekeepers, right? And so at one point, Loki comes after he's escaped in a sense. He's like, yo, give me the Tesseract or I'll gut you like a fish. And dude's like, what's a fish? And what are you talking about? He's like, I'm going to kill you. There's going to be a lot of pain. So dude opens up a drawer to give Loki the Tesseract. And Loki looks in, and there are multiple copies of the Infinity Stones in there. Like, every Infinity Stone is in this drawer. And at this moment, Loki is stuck. He like, yo, what the fuck? He was like, yeah, some people use these as paperweights. And Loki's like, wait, what? Are you serious? He realizes the power of the Infinity Stones they pale in comparison to the powers that the TVA has and the Timekeepers. Now, Loki's already emotional about this. I forgot to mention, he also saw, not only did he see the death of Frigga, he saw the events of Ragnarok where Odin dies. And so, again, this show plays with your heartstrings already. People have fallen in love with the charisma and the charm of Tom Hiddleston, and you get more of that thus far in this. There's another part, I forgot to mention how the hunt for another variant. So they go back to France in the 1500s, and this is Owen Wilson's character. This is before, I think, he's working with Loki, and he sees that a group of the Minutemen have been murdered, and they've been murdered, and there's a little French girl, if I'm not mistaken, and she's given some kablooey, right? And so he's like, okay, do what you got to do, reset everything. So they reset the timeline so everything is normal, the bodies disappear. At the end of the episode, you find out that the reason that Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, recruits Loki is because they're trying to catch another variant. But the variant is another version of Loki. So it's like, yeah, how best to catch this certain villain, then use them so we can understand their mind. And again, Wunmi's like, I'm not for this. Her name's Hunter B15. She's not for it at all. So they get a point where, again, they have these things where they find out there's issues that's happening in the timeline. There's nexus events happening that are changing time. They go to Oklahoma in 1858, and you see the variant Loki that has a cloak on basically set them up and set Mons on fire. And you're like, holy shit. The second episode, they go to a Renaissance fair. Now, again, the Minutemen are dressed the way they are. Loki's dressed with his jacket that says variant on the back and everything. And they come in. It's 1985 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And it's funny because they're not dressed. And this one girl was like, some of us need this, okay? Like, and you see that a lot with a lot of people needing to be in Renaissance fairs. So again, fast forward, Loki's trying to figure this out of how to catch this variant, et cetera, et cetera. But at one point, he's trying to convince Mobius that he's doing different. And Mobius is like, yo, you just the same dude. You're trying to play this game. Because like Loki says, I just want to meet the timekeepers. And then they know that Loki's just playing this game to try to manipulate people to get what he wants. Loki, after reading files on not just himself, but the variant and the different events that the variant has caused and been involved in, find out that the variant is using apocalypses because apocalypses are naturally meant to happen. So anything the variant does in that situation at time, it doesn't matter because the civilization is going to be wiped out. I.e., they go to Pompeii when Mount Vesuvius erupts and kills everybody. And Loki's out here just running amok, letting goats run free, doing all this. And he's like, it don't matter because he's like, he doesn't matter. And Owen Wilson's checking things like the timeline has to change. Like, exactly, because they're going to be wiped out anyway. So nothing matters that he does. And eventually it goes to this one point, I think it's like 2050 they go to. If I think I wrote it down, it was like 2050 they go forward. And they're at a Walmart that's owned by the Roxxon Corporation and a bunch of people. I think a giant hurricane or whatever's coming in. And it's going to wipe everybody out regardless. People are going to die. And so Loki ends up catching up with his variant self, who is switching bodies. Goes through Wunmi Mosaku's body, Hunter B15. Goes through another dude that's working there named Jason, another dude. And Loki keeps talking about why you just won't come face me. And then talk about, listen, I just want you to help me so we can double cross and we can take over the timekeepers. And the variant is like, yo, that's not what I want to do. I got other plans. The variant has been stealing these reset charges that the Minutemen have and basically is trying to destroy them all in the TVA. Now, after Loki gets discovered, comes to find out that the Loki that the variant is not the Tom Hiddleston, it's the female Loki, played by Sophia DiMartino, which we'd been assumed that that's what role she was going to play. And so that's where the Loki goes through the temporal door, and after that, that's pretty much the end of the second episode. I know I gave you guys a quick, brief synopsis on 2 episodes, but here's what I want to say from my thoughts. What you think you know, you don't. When they are in France in 1500, there's a little girl, like I said, the little girl. Owen Wilson's character asks the little girl, did you see what the person looked like? The little girl says, yes. And he says, what? And the little girl points to a stained glass window. It's a picture of the devil. I was like, here we go. Here go the Mephisto theories. But the showrunners confirmed Mephisto is not showing up. So drop that. I thought it would be fun to play with it, but I was like, nope, let's not start this. Because remember, everybody was on their train from WandaVision and felt upset that they didn't get something they were never promised and was written a long time ago. I don't understand. I don't get it. But there are things that are setting up. And again, this is the Loki of Avengers, from the Avengers, again, from the time jump when they did the time heist. And so he is able to see everything that has happened. He sees his death. So everything, that's why they say this is the events after Endgame. even though this is the Loki from Avengers. That's the confusion part a lot of people may have. Like, okay, wait, what? This is after Endgame. And so, also we see at one point, I forgot, we see when Loki was DB Cooper, but you see Loki doing all these different things throughout different periods of time, trying to help out and then just turning around to be himself. I think this is going to be unique because no matter what you think, you don't. You think, oh, Loki's going to help the TVA and then find out it's a female Loki and Loki's going to either help himself or turn on himself. You don't know how it's going to go. It plays itself out. And the characters in which we're introduced to already, it's really cool. Now, I want to talk about a few things that have come up with the show. Of course, the confirmation of Loki being gender fluid, and of course, there's already the neckbeards and everything going, oh, this is them being woke. But Loki's been gender fluid in the comics for a while now. So, like, why is this a thing? Why are people complaining? First of all, why does it matter if a character is gay, straight, gender fluid, pansexual, whatever the case, whatever their sexual designation? Also, more importantly, and some people at this point probably have disliked, why the fuck do you care what a comic book character, their sexuality is? Now, yes, I know Loki is from Norse mythology. I understand that. I get that completely. I do. But we're not talking about that Loki. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Marvel Loki. Again, this character is made up for the story. They didn't make the exact Loki from Norse mythology and keep him the same all the way through, i.e. same thing with Thor. And when they get mystical characters who have lore and they bring them into the comic book world, they don't keep them always the same. I don't understand people's big deal. As a straight dude, I'm learning, and I've learned a lot through life that, I grew up thinking like I had a homeboy who I grew up with was gay. And I used to always be like, yo, why the fuck do you want another dude when you got the baddest of chicks chasing after you? This was me growing up. And this was like a pretty nigga. He's a pretty light-skinned nigga before Drake was a thing. Like, he was pre-Drake. I mean, like, razor lining. Like, this nigga was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay. But the fact, I say that to say, it's his business. It's his reasoning. It's not mine. It's his life. In a comic book, when they make a character gay, straight, any version of the LGBTQ community, like, yo, why do people be getting pissed? Then you get the female Loki. That's something that was I think it was in the comics as well. People want to be like, oh, they're doing all. Stop. Chill on all that, yo. Again, these shows now are coming in a different day and age, where it has to be more inclusive to everybody else because more people are open to who they are. When you had characters back in the day that were only one of two ways, it's because that's the only thing that was allowed to be seen. So representation matters. Now back to the story. I hate, per se, again, as a fan of the villains, as somebody who calls himself resident supervillain, sometimes I don't want to feel sympathetic for the villains. You know what I'm saying? I don't. But Loki has been that character since Thor where we felt for him because it's like always just acceptance. You hear him talk to Owen Wilson in these episodes. And there's one point when Owen Wilson, he tells him like, yo, this is why I do what I do. It breaks him down and you get kind of emotional with him. You see his hurt and his pain when he sees how his life went, when he sees the loss of his mother, his adopted mother, of his adopted father, when he sees the loss of his own life. Because at that point, when he sees his own death, he's like, well, shit, none of this really matters. But it does hit him. Again, he plays this role as a veil, as a shield. And so, as this goes forward, I think you just got to let a show be a show. And here's what I mean by that. We can't go into these shows. We can all have these theories. But here's the problem with our theories. The show's done. I said this with Falcon and Winter Soldier, even though the show had to change because of the pandemic. A lot of it had to change. I don't know how much had to change with Loki due to the pandemic, but I know a major plot point in Falcon and Winter Soldier where they were going to do a pandemic, and they were like, we can't do a pandemic, and it's really a pandemic. But I say that to say we can't have all these fan theories and plot theories and then get upset when they don't come to fruition for something that's been written, shot, edited, put together, and ready to air. We can't allow ourselves as fans or casual viewers to be mad at that because they've never promised us anything. The only thing they promised is a show that's to entertain at the end of the day. Now, if you get upset because your theory didn't come to fruition or come to pass in the show, that's on you. That's on you. I see it like this. The first episode for some might be slower. The second episode picks it up. Because again, the variant Loki hypnotizes and trances one of the agents and has one of the Minutemen whooping the other commander, has the commander whooping the rest of the Minutemen's asses until while Hero is playing in the background. And this is at the Ren Fair, by the way. This is at the Renaissance Fair from earlier. So again, it's gonna have moments. No show is action all the way through. Again, Falcon and Winter Soldier came out the gate. Some are gonna do that depending on the character. But again, this is a character we're catching up with. This is not the character that. This is a character that is traveling in time, caught by the Time Variant Authority, and you find out other things. Also, you find out about Nexus events that if they hit this red line, that is a disaster, and the timeline can't be reset. If it hits a red line, then the timeline can't be reset, and it will potentially lead to the destruction of the entire sacred timeline. So people are, saying, what is this going to retcon in Avengers, or what is this going to retcon going forward? And we don't know. I mean, again, we don't know how these things play. This could tie into Black Widow. This could be, I still believe in Black Widow that, yes, I know they said Florence Pugh's character is in Hawkeye. I get it. We don't know how. But I still believe that Florence Pugh is the one that died in Endgame as some old debt to Natasha, and Natasha is still alive, and that's why you haven't heard anything from Scarlett Johansson. I still believe that in my heart. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. Whatever. But when it comes back to Loki, enjoy this. It's weird, and it's one of those shows that makes you say, "Fuck your expectations, fuck your hopes, your theories." And I like that it does that. Again, you see the devil in a 15th century church and you're like, oh shit, Mephisto. And then the writer's like, let me stop y'all right now. Ain't no damn Mephisto. And so that's a good thing. All right. But when you see this, if you have seen this, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. All right. So go ahead and like, subscribe, click on the notification bell, find out when I'm dropping more videos. I'm trying to get back more stuff here on the channel and get things together before I actually take a vacation and a break and do nothing. But hey, it is what it is. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. Check out the Mad Titan podcast, everywhere you get podcasts from. I get you caught up on all the things happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. It is Barbershop Talk for Nerds. Come on in that convo, as well as Blurs in the Hood every Tuesday, Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. Myself, Winston A. Marshall. We talk about the world of pop culture, entertainment, news, sports, comedy, and politics and more from a Blur's perspective, and we are unapologetically black. YouTube.com/Blurs in the Hood, BLERDS, the letter NTHEHOOD. Make sure you stay tuned to my Twitter and Instagram. I'm back in the wrestling ring. If you're in the Southern California area, you can come check me out for a while. All right, I'm back to slamming people. Holla at y'all later next week. Take care.